All right, horror fans, buckle up, because today we're taking a deep dive into the Backrooms.
Ooh, yeah, the Backrooms.
If you're into creepypasta, chances are you've heard about this one. That endless maze of empty offices. You know.
With those super creepy yellow walls.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But today we're going even deeper. We've got a first-person account from someone who claims to have experienced it firsthand.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, we're talking flickering lights, shifting layouts, and
Oh, don't forget the creatures.
oh yeah, we can't forget about those.
See, the Backrooms, they take this normal thing, an office, and they twist it into something terrifying. Like when you're alone in a parking garage at night. Or walking down a long, empty hallway, you know?
Totally. That feeling.
That uneasy feeling.
It's like the place itself is off, it's familiar but strange at the same time.
Horror fans call those liminal spaces.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, but let's get into this story. Our narrator starts their day totally normal at work at a construction hypermarket.
Yeah,
They even mention hitting the snooze button a few times.
I can relate to that.
Right, like super normal, everyday stuff.
Yeah, that's actually a classic horror technique. You establish normalcy, then bam, the horror hits even harder.
Yeah, you said it. So our narrator gets to work, heads to the back entrance, goes into the storage room, routine stuff. But this time, instead of clutter, they find themselves in this huge space. Yellow walls everywhere, damp smell. And the creepy thing is they try to explain it away like it's a prank or something.
That's so human, right? Our brains want things to make sense. But the Backrooms, totally illogical.
Which makes it even scarier. And then, get this, the layout starts changing. Rooms they marked, gone. Or moved. Yeah. Imagine trying to escape a maze that keeps rearranging itself.
Oh, that's like peak disorientation. The environment itself becomes the monster.
Right, like something's playing with them.
Totally. And speaking of monsters...
Oh yeah, it gets worse. They see this shadow, this dark, writhing thing in the distance. Just a glimpse, but enough to send chills down your spine.
Ah, the power of suggestion. Leaving the details to our imagination. That's true horror. Our minds always conjure up the worst.
Absolutely. And for our narrator, that glimpse was enough. Fight or flight kicks in, and the chase is on.
So we go from creepy vibes to full-blown terror. Now it's not just about the setting, there's a pursuer.
And then, just when you think it can't get worse, they find a staircase going down.
Uh-oh. The basement. Never a good sign in horror stories.
Yeah, things are about to get a whole lot darker.
Back in the Backrooms, where things are about to take a truly dark turn.
Yeah, our narrator just found those stairs leading down to the basement levels.
Yeah.
And you know what they say about basements.
Oh, I know. It's like the horror intensifies tenfold. We go from those wide open, unsettling hallways to this cramped, claustrophobic terror.
And don't forget the darkness, or the layers of it.
Ah, yeah. Those flickering lights.
Yeah.
Even creepier down in the basement. Like, you can't trust what you're seeing. It makes you feel so vulnerable.
Oh, totally. Like they tease you with these brief glimpses of whatever's lurking in the shadows, then bam, darkness again. Your mind just goes wild.
Exactly. The true horror is what you don't see. That anticipation. You know something's out there.
Okay, and here comes the first real creature encounter. It's in one of those moments of darkness, and the narrator describes it as like this broken humanoid figure, but smiling with these glowing eyes.
Oh, that's just wrong. And the way they describe the sound of it moving, like this unsettling crunching sound.
Yeah, the author nailed those details. Sensory stuff like that just puts you right there in the moment.
Totally. Makes your skin crawl. Something that looks kinda human, but so wrong. Like a nightmare version.
And it gets worse. The thing actually chases them. Now, it's not just creepy vibes, it's full-on visceral terror.
That ramps up the tension. We're right there with the narrator, running for our lives. And even when the lights flicker back on, you know it's not over.
The dread is constant. Like something's always out there waiting. And the story keeps reminding us. Those sounds echoing in the corridors, a footstep shuffling, laughter, screams.
It's like torture, really. No escape, no way to relax, always on edge. Ugh, exhausting. And as the narrator goes deeper into the basement, it gets even weirder. They encounter these figures, faceless, but moving like people.
Oh God, those faceless things. Another level of creepy. Like they should have faces, but there's nothing. Just blankness. It's like they've lost something human.
It's like looking into a distorted mirror, seeing humanity stripped bare. And then, brace yourself for this. They discover a time loop, they check their phone, and the date is the same as when they entered the Backrooms.
A time loop, wow. Now it's not just about escaping the place, it's about escaping time itself, like a repeating nightmare.
Talk about despair. Trapped in a cycle of terror. Makes you wonder how you'd cope. But then, just when all hope seems lost, they find a way out of the basement. They stumble into a forest.
A forest. That's a sudden change. From those claustrophobic corridors to the wide open, well, whatever that forest is.
Yeah, you think it might be a break, a moment of peace, but no. It's dark, with these weird trees and, oh yeah, living corpses.
Ugh. The horror shifts again. Now it's not just psychological, it's that primal fear of death, of decay. But our narrator, they're tough. They're still searching for a way out, scavenging for supplies, even from reanimated corpse.
Talk about survival instincts. You gotta do what you gotta do in a place like that. And then, in this terrifying forest, they hear something incredible. A human voice.
Oh, wow. After all that isolation, the voice must have been a beacon of hope.
Absolutely, a turning point. Maybe they're not alone after all.
Back again for the final part of our Backrooms deep dive. We've seen the corridors, the basement, those creepy creatures. And then there's the backstage, that glimmer of hope.
You know what really gets me about this story is how it mixes those classic horror things, the lights, the shifting layout, the creatures, with this really personal story. Like, the narrator's fight to survive, it pulls you in.
Yeah, it makes you think, what would I do? And speaking of those creatures, those faceless ones, man, they were unsettling.
Totally. Like losing your identity, becoming just another thing in that maze. And then there's the time loop. That's a whole other level of messed up.
The time loop, yeah, that's what stays with you. Like, you're trapped in this cycle you can't break.
Yeah.
Makes you question everything.
For sure. It's that fear of the unknown, of losing control. That's what makes good horror so effective. But let's talk about something we mentioned earlier, those liminal spaces. You know, those in-between places that always seem to pop up in horror stories.
Oh yeah, the Backrooms are a perfect example. Those endless yellow walls, so sterile and weird.
It's like they're outside of normal time and space, you know? And that's where the real horror comes in, when things stop making sense, when the familiar breaks down. The Backrooms, it takes that idea and just goes all out with it.
I've always been fascinated by those liminal spaces, like abandoned hospitals, empty malls. They just feel dot off, like something else is there just below the surface.
Right, it's like the veil between worlds is thinner in those places. And the Backrooms, it takes that to the extreme, this vast, inescapable liminal space, a nightmare you can't wake up from.
So, thinking about all this, what is it about the Backrooms that really creeps you out? And if you found yourself trapped there, what would you do?
It's that reminder that reality is fragile, that the line between normal and monstrous is thinner than we think. That's a fear we all share, horror fan or not.
Well, that's a pretty unsettling thought to end on. We've reached the end of our Backrooms deep dive. Hope you enjoyed it, as terrifying as it was.
Just remember, folks, the Backrooms are always out there. One wrong turn and you could be in that maze, so stay vigilant and keep the lights on.